everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and we're going to talk politics very, very briefly in a very unique way, specifically minimum wage and how it relates to restaurants. Now, I have been around for a long time. I've actually lived through a couple minimum wage hike increases. Sorry to say, they don't really work. They work for like maybe a couple weeks at most, and then everything goes up to inflation. Everyone realizes, oh, they've got more money coming in, so we can charge more money, or we need to charge more money because we're paying more. And so as a result, minimum wage never actually helps anyone. But here's the thing, it's still fought against quite venomously, particularly on restaurants. Restaurants have been fighting the $15 minimum wage because they said it will kill their business. Now, here's the thing, I don't run a restaurant, clearly, but I do know that restaurants, even the big chains, operate on razor thin margins. And let's say you've got like 30 employees on a shift. It might be less, it might be more, who knows. And all of a sudden you're now paying them an extra $4 an hour. That's a lot of money for a restaurant to fork over. They have to make it up in either price hikes or, pretty much they have to charge more for the food. And as a result, when they raise their prices, people will not go to the restaurants much. Therefore, it has been highlighted. Oh yeah, and then of course some employees have to be fired because they can't afford all these employees at $15 an hour. So it has been argued that the $15 minimum wage will kill restaurants. But we live in the age of the pandemic. And more than that, we live in the age of the delivery app. And we are discovering that it's actually the delivery apps that will kill the restaurants, not the $15 minimum wage. Now, according to Business Insider, and this is kind of a follow-up from what we talked about a couple days ago, to curb the spread of the novel C virus, states and localities around the U.S. have banned dining in at restaurants to halt social interaction. Instead, restaurants must offer food for takeout or delivery only via apps like Grubhub and Uber Eats. The C virus began spreading from China in late December. As of March 19th, the disease has infected at least 222,643 people in 160 countries. And by the way, it has killed more than 70 to 80,000 in America alone, depending on the numbers today, so much for the flu being worse. C virus is set to devastate the restaurant industry, but delivery apps had played a role in decreasing food industry employment long before disease spread. While restaurants have long advocated against minimum wage hikes for the job cuts they say the move would cause, apps like Uber Eats and Grubhub may play a role in reduced restaurant employment. Quote, "We saw a direct correlation between delivery services and the reduction of our income," a restaurant owner who closed 2 locations after employing delivery apps told the New York Times in August 2019. It was like death by 1,000 cuts. Now then, we kind of talked about this briefly, but here's like a quick little summary. Since restaurants paying delivery apps high commission fees, doing without rent helps businesses save money. But no physical restaurant also means no waitstaff. Restaurants in New York City tend to spread 1/3 of their revenue on labor, according to the New Yorker. For the most part, food delivery in the U.S. still occurs directly through the restaurant. That means patrons call up a Domino's directly and an in-house employee delivers a pizza. However, third-party delivery apps like Uber Eats and Postmates, which any independent contractor can sign up to deliver for, have gained popularity in urban areas and amongst younger clients, according to eMarketer. The data company found that global downloads of the top 5 delivery apps grew 115% from 2016 to 2018. These apps are expensive for restaurants. Uber Eats charges restaurants a 30% commission on all orders. That means for a sandwich that sells for $17.50 and costs $5.50 to make, Uber Eats takes $5.25 extra, Skift Table reported. And then we'll finish after this thing, but it's a really bad business. It's really a business model that's bad for restaurants, James Parrott, a director of economic and fiscal policies at the New School, told Business Insider. Hopefully the industry will come to its senses and push those restaurant delivery services out of the picture, because I've yet to see anything where it's positive for the restaurant industry. It helps crowd out locally owned smaller restaurants. So here's the thing. That 30% from the restaurant, this is where we're doing like a little bit of a follow-up from the video a couple days ago. It's really more like 70%, at least in some instances. You may have seen the video that I did a few days ago, and if you haven't, I'll just I'll just kind of summarize it. A restaurant shared their receipt for business that they did with Grubhub. And on that receipt, there was several fees, and they were expensive fees. There was even a, I kid you not, pay me now fee, which was 0 on that receipt, but which I surmise meant that basically if you didn't pay them right away, they would charge a fee. It felt very mobster-ish, if you will. Ultimately, the restaurant sold about $1,100 worth of food, but had got just a little under $400. The rest of that money went to Grubhub, and what's more, the person who posted this picture suggested that this amount of money almost covered the food that they spent. Now, that might be in a state where they are price gouging. In states like New York and California, for example, they have told the restaurants you have to cap the fee at 15% and not take advantage of the restaurants. But here's the thing. Many states are not requiring that. And now more than ever, the restaurants are starting to realize what bad business these partnerships are. Like, I think when they signed up for them, it's like, okay, you're going to take 30%. But here's the thing. Most people are still going to come in. Most people might pick up on the way home. And heck, Uber Eats and Grubhub and Postmates, they all charge a bunch of fees to, the customer. So the customers would not do this on a regular basis. A few might, but not all. And in fact, when I did DoorDash, I will admit there was one lady who I was at her house an awful lot because she was doing nothing but DoorDash. That said, she seemed to be like an executive who a fee for her food would not bother her at all. So most people aren't like that. But here's the thing. Then you have the C virus lockdown. And people are now, ordering a lot more food indoors. So now these apps are like having their moment. They're having their moment to shine. People are downloading them. They're trying them for the first time. What's more, because this is where now most of the business is coming from, that gives Uber, Grubhub, Postmates, all these companies the confidence to charge a higher fee in states that will allow it. And as a result, now all of a sudden the restaurants are finding the majority of their business is being done through these apps, and these apps are taking way more than the 30% that they were supposed to. And all of a sudden the minimum wage doesn't seem like that's going to kill the restaurants anymore. And here's the thing that's worse. What happens once the restaurants start reopening and some people don't feel safe going out? They're just going to continue using these apps. But it's been pretty well established that these apps do not benefit the restaurant. On the other hand, what say the restaurant decides, hey, we're going to stop doing business with the apps. We're not going to offer delivery through Uber Eats or Grubhub. It doesn't make sense for us. Well, here's the thing. You're going to find that people might not be so loyal to your restaurant. So, yeah, you won't have to pay those fees, but then people who would normally buy food from you and have it delivered aren't going to be buying food from you anymore. And as a result, guess what? You're going to lose even more money. And it's one of those catch-22s where it's like, well, do you want to lose money on the orders but make something? Or do you just want to not have those customers back ever again? Those customers might never come back if there's not a food delivery option because it's going to be a long time before they leave again. It's kind of scary to think about how much damage the delivery apps are going to do. And this is what Uber does. I'm actually kind of ashamed that at one point I thought this is the future, this is great, everyone's working out, when it turns out, no, they're not working out. The only people who benefit are Uber, who don't have to make the food, who don't have to pay the rent for the restaurants, who don't have to pay the employees, and yeah, that means they don't have to pay the drivers because the drivers are making pennies on the dollar, and they are reaping huge rewards. And this is why their Eats platform is super profitable. This is why they want to buy Grubhub. Rideshare, that's yesterday's news. People aren't going to be doing rideshare for a while, and it was never profitable in the first place. But Eats, well, guess what? We could charge up to 70% on the order from the restaurants. And by the way, we will still charge the customers extra money for items as our cut. Like, Uber takes so many cuts, those Grubhubs, those Postmates, that this is nothing but detrimental to the restaurant industry. And it makes me a little worried. Now, where I live, things haven't quite reopened yet. And when they do reopen, I will be making some reservations. We won't be eating out as much as often. In fact, we've kind of liked getting used to eating inside. But that being said, it's we will make it a point like, hey, if we're feeling like something and we want to eat, we're going to cut out the middleman. We're going to go straight to the restaurant. We're going to support the restaurant that way. We're not going to use these apps to essentially destroy our businesses. I will not buy something from my business through Uber Eats or Postmates, just because I know it's hurting the businesses now. I mean, I kind of I thought that it was a better relationship than this. Like, I didn't realize until a few days ago just how bad it really was for the restaurants. I probably should have known. God knows I've been talking about Uber and all these companies for long enough that I should have known that there was, of course, going to be a catch. But, well, hey, mistakes happen. I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to use those apps anymore. But there you go. Now I'm going to ask you, knowing all of this, are you going to continue to use Uber Eats, Postmates, or DoorDash for personal use? I'm not talking about driving. I'm talking about like for personal consumption. Type 761 if you got to the end before your comment, so I know that you reached the end of this video. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.